We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Okay, it appears that the board queen moonlights on MSNBC to promote her board collectivism ideas through mainstream media. To those of you out there who think that you're liberal but haven't been consumed by it completely, I so hope you reject what she's saying. I hope a light is turned on and you can see the abyss of liberalism. Seriously, I feel like I'm watching y'all from a movie theater and I'm feeling the urge to go stereotypical urban and start shouting at the movie screen. Don't go in there, run fool, the demon done already told y'all what they're gonna do, run! Sir, could you please shut up? Man, don't make me jump over these chairs.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
Harris Perry, a liberal commentator on MSNBC, and yes, I use the term liberal. I get people telling me to stop calling them liberals. They're statists, they're progressives, yeah, whatever. All of it generates from a left angle. I'm not buying into the strategy of liberals who toss around a bunch of names to throw people off their scent. And when there are people who vote for more power to the state, who are making more caustic progress in being liberal with how they interpret the Constitution, liberal with what doesn't qualify as human, liberal with what qualifies as marriage, liberal with illegal immigrants cutting, liberal with how much regulations they impose, liberal with how much they tax us, liberal with how much they spend the money they take from us, liberal with how much they borrow, and liberal with putting us into debt from the other countries that they borrow money from. They all take these liberties, but we're not supposed to call them liberals? The term liberal still fits. Anyway, Melissa just made a contradiction of sacrilegious proportions to the liberal doctrine. I thought her being a feminist meant a woman's child was her property, to even kill before birth if she so desires. So how do you go from that to kids belong to the whole community? Might I offer what it means when liberals like to lean on the African saying, it takes a village, which is an idea that seems to be working out great for Africa, by the way. This is the reality of it taking a village. It is the intention that everybody is going to pitch in and help raise up the young. That intention always goes south because it ends up with people expecting others to assume the burden of someone else's choices. It takes parents first. Of course, we want to live in supportive communities, but what liberals are talking about continues to yield a culture that is more interested in what they can get from the community more than what they can give, while expecting others to give. And they feel it's their duty to make others give. You can see it in the eyes of many of the youth. More and more, their motivation isn't to discover what skill or talent they can develop to contribute. Their motivation is not to be bored. They grow up looking for what they can get out of life, not what they can give, while accusing others of being greedy. But these are the manifestations of the so-called good intentions of liberals. The child is a parent's responsibility, not their property. And that's not a responsibility to be passed off on the village. And that's exactly what it leads to. You can see that in the school system, as teachers are more and more put in the position of picking up the slack of parents who weren't really up to assuming the responsibility of being parents. But while these liberal teachers complain about their class sizes, they forgot that they support having condoms in their school for teens who can't wait to get married. And chances are often, if they can't wait to get married, they'll lack the patience to use a condom too. Or in other cases, some teens use pregnancy as a trap. So listen, to those who aren't hardwired liberal, please reconsider following liberals down that road. You'll end up believing crazy stuff like this.
I stand here as a freed slave.
Why is what she said crazy? Well, obviously, she's never been a slave, but she wants to continue bringing up the past, while liberals call themselves progressives and accuse Republicans of living in the past. Sheila Jackson talks about being a newly freed slave, only to do what? Run around in a circle in the Democrat Party field that fought to keep slavery? Yay, I'm a newly freed slave. Sheila Jackson talks about being a newly freed slave, Only to do what? So she can enjoy supporting the policies that puts people under her as subjects of the state? I mean, after all, like Melissa Harris says, we have to give in to the programming that we belong to the community, which really means we need to conform to their idea that we belong to the state. When liberals say it takes a village, what they're saying is it takes the state. And the state always takes more than it gives. The only aspect of the government that gives more than it takes are the people serving us in our military, firefighters, and police who are prepared to risk their lives to protect ours. Most of them. There are some jerks, like Christopher Dorner and Nidal Hassan. I'm AlfonZo Rachel with ZoNation, and we see that many liberals always talk about us looking out for each other, yet don't want to be of service to people. Don't get me wrong, I know my share of liberals who are very diligent workers, but too many aren't carrying that ethic, and its effects are crippling the country. Many are always considering themselves slaves and resenting the very people who give them jobs to be of service. How can liberals preach all this talk of being of service when they see being of service as a sign of weakness and being enslaved? Don't go in there, run, fool!